everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rugby with Pads. I'm your host, Sam. This is the third time I'm recording this because I forgot the name of my own name twice. It's a very hot day. It's recording the 1st of July. But we are here back talking about the divisional tiers, and we are going to be continuing our tour through this with the AFC West. AFC West, got a lot of Super Bowls in there, most of them from Patrick Mahomes, but does that translate to fancy success? And we're going to start off with Patrick Mahomes' team, the Kansas City Chiefs, who are apparently the best team in football according to Madden, even though they lost the Super Bowl last year. And I don't think they really wowed anyone. And let's think about them as a team, because a few years ago, they changed the NFL with Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, and Mahomes doing things that other teams wouldn't do. They were the best trio in all of football. And fantasy reflected that as well. Mahomes was scoring for fun. Tyreek Hill was locked in wide receiver one. Travis Kelsey earned his stripes as a true wide receiver one in a tight end's body. Absolutely fantastic team. But these days, like, I look down the draft, down the depth chart, I'm like, Rashid Rice, yeah, okay, fine. Xavier Worthy, yeah. Oliver Brown. There's no names. Travis Kelsey is a shadow of himself. And the one guy you thought was really good, Patrick Mahomes, is he that good? Let's take a look, and we're going to do our first kind of a little bit of deep dive here. And let's start with Patrick Mahomes and think, right, well, how did he finish last year? Last year, he was the QB11. Okay, great, that's fine. For that, QB8, QB1, QB4, QB4. He is not reaching these heights that he reached in 2020 to 2022, where he was locked in. He is over 120 fantasy points down year on year. If we look at his passing touchdowns here, 26, 27 the last couple of years. Before that, 41, 47. His yards have dropped as well. And yes, he has had less. They've gone for more of a defensive squad, but I really don't think you can treat Patrick Mahomes as a locked-in QB1. And that's crazy to think about, because he should be. But where he's being drafted, for name brand alone. You think being drafted for Andy Reid, incredible offenses and all that kind of stuff. But then you look at his surrounding cast, and you can't see where it's coming from. Yes, Xavier Worthy is an explosive bombshell. Yes, Rashid Rice is probably good if he's coming back from suspension, I believe. I can't remember what he's out for. Hollywood Brown, if he stays healthy, he could be average. I'm going to be brave here and call Patrick Mahomes a league winner. He is on the cusp of the QB1 market. And again, we go back and look at his recent stats. 8-11, yeah, it's all right. If he can get over 4,000 yards and 27 touchdowns, he'll be around the QB12 mark. But you want so much more from him that he doesn't have the rushing upside. Yes, he's rushed consistently well, more scrambles, but he's not getting double-digit touchdowns like Mahomes and Lamar and his Bills compatriot. I can't remember his name, but Josh Allen is at the moment. But he is good, and if he manages to have a season like Burrow did last year, that's a big if, and he could do it. The game could become explosive. Xavier Worthy could go off. He could be a league winner, and hopefully, if you can form a narrative of the depression of his value over time and the game being more defensive, then maybe you can pick up Mahomes with a really, really good value, and he could be your league winner, especially when you look at it against the opposition we've got in that. I put CJ Stroud, Baker Mayfield. I don't think I want Mahomes over any of those guys, but he could be good. And he is good. We know he's talented, but is he going to be your locked-in QB1? He's probably going to be. But should he be? That's another question. Running back room, I think, is incredibly crowded. Isaiah Pacheco, they picked up a 7th round in Brashard Smith. They obviously don't have any reliance on any single one of these guys. It's going to be a backfield of chaos. And I think what you're going to get here, even though you've got a lot of guys who ran a lot the last couple of years. Isaiah Pacheco was injured a little bit last year. Elijah Mitchell, it was fantastic in the 49ers setup. Is he going to be in Kansas City? Brashard Smith could be there. The highest player I'm going to put on here is Isaiah Pacheco. And it's difficult to say anything more than flex or value play there, because I really can't see him going above and beyond. I think we can probably ignore Kareem Hunt now. I think that experiment is over. He's going to be into his age 30 season, maybe. He's definitely on the the wrong side of 25. Yeah, he's 29 now, age 30 season. Elijah Mitchell, a lot younger. Brashard Smith only has 7th-round draft capital, but you said, oh, they did great with Isaiah Pacheco, and he was 7th round. Yeah, he was, but can lightning strike twice? Very difficult. There's no one else on the running back depth chart that I want to see there. But Isaiah Pacheco is still a decent shout if you're looking for an RB2 there. I think he's going to have volume alone to get him over the line. The wide receiver room is a mess. Rashee Rice is probably your guy who is going to get the most receptions. And I think if he comes back and played the way he did, I think he could be, just like if Mahomes performs and hopefully their fates are entwined, he could be a league winner. I think he could have that wide receiver one potential, but I think there's too many mouths to feed for him not to. I think there is a massive sleeper potential for both Xavier Worthy, and for different reasons, and Hollywood Brown. I think Hollywood Brown could be the guy who unlocks the middle of the field. Xavier Worthy, if they start getting those bombs and he starts being able to burn corners, he could be fantastic. It could be really, really interesting. However, I'm not really paying any attention to Juju. He'll get those plays where he has 2 touchdowns in a game and then go silent for 3 weeks, and you'll be upset. Sky Moore is not a name that I will ever draft again. And Jalen Royals was a later round pick, but for the time being, I think there's just too many mouths to feed, especially when we talk about Travis Kelce. And Travis Kelce is another one of those names. Do I put him in the same place as Gesicki, Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz? No, I don't, because annoyingly, I think on volume alone, he has wide receiver one upside, and this kills me to put him in here. I'm buying the hype train once again. I think if he lost some weight over the off season, he's looking better. He's looking healthy. Maybe he's going for one last charge here. I don't think we'll see him being the coach type player. I've got to put him here, and it's not a hot take. I know it's not a brave take. It's not something I'm going to ignore him and draft other people instead. I still think he has a fantastic opportunity, and him and Mahomes have something special. He will be incredibly tied to Mahomes. Mahomes will be incredibly tied to him. I'm putting him in that wide receiver one upside because he does have it. And if not, he's still going to be an excellent floor play for you. Denver Broncos, I think, are a really, really interesting mix. And bear in mind, I'm not going on stats. These are going on my initial view of these guys. Bo Nix is amazing. He's really good. I think he is in the same conversation as CJ Stroud, Baker Mayfield, Penix, Mahomes. He's got that league winner potential, and we've got a lot of the guys in this. This is getting very crowded in this market, and I can't quite put him in at the locked-in QB1. And this is based on my draft strategy, by the way. I tend to not draft QBs early, so I see a lot of value, and I try and differentiate between the inside the tier for these guys. But he is fantastic. If he can run a little bit, great. If he can throw the way he threw last year, and let's look at some of his stats last year. In how many games did he have? 17 games. I don't think he started all of them. What was his TD? 29 TDs for a rookie. That is amazing. You'd probably see more regression to the mean. That was 6th for the league. Nearly 4,000 passing yards. Yeah, 12 interceptions. Not the best in the world, and QBR not the greatest either. But he also had a bit on his legs as well. 92 carries, 430 yards. This is better than Mahomes. You know what? Bo Nix, you're getting upgraded. I feel like he could be a locked-in QB, and he has better people around him. He's got RJ Harvey. He's got another year under Sean Payton. I think he could be fantastic. He's going to be at the lower end of that tier for me. I think the volatility of him as a locked-in QB is dangerous, but he could be very good because he's not just statuesque like you think. He has got something about him. Whether he'll be as crazy or not as he was last year, because some of the throws he did last year were amazing, but I think he's going to be very good. We've got a crowded RB room, but I think it's obvious who the two main guys are. J.K. Dobbins gets a pretty decent amount of change, and I think he is going to be your RB1 workhorse to start with. However, I think he is going to get enough third down taken away from him, and he has such an injury risk that I can't see him above RJ Harvey. Most people pay PPR at least half PPR, and I think if you're doing that, then you must consider RJ Harvey as being not quite the workhorse here, but he is definitely a league winner for you out of the running back room. Yes, he's going to go quite late. I think you probably still have to pay attention to J.K. Dobbins, who I will actually have quite a high opinion of, and I do think he's got flex value there. I'm not looking at any of the names. Audric Estime is potentially a guy, but he got so few touches. I can't. Yeah, I'm putting him in the ignored category. It's a weird room, but you got to think back to the Sean Payton offenses of the Saints. You had Mark Ingram, he's J.K. Dobbins. You had Kamara, both of them fantasy relevant, but who is the better of fantasy relevant? Even though he wasn't necessarily on the field for those first and second down, big runs like J.K. Dobbins should be, RJ Harvey has potential to be the next Kamara. And you know what? I think Sean Payton has just this fascination in creating his old team. The wide receiver room it doesn't look great, but you know what? I think Courtland Sutton could be good. I'm going to let's take a look at him on Sleeper. Courtland Sutton. He's always been that kind of player that hasn't got enough credit. He's been in the league a long time. Fantasy finish is not great. 48, 19, 180. Or he only played one game that season. But his availability over the last 4 years has been good. And last year with Bo Nix, 15th in PPR. Do I think he'll be that? No, I think that's an outstanding year. Do I think he could be good? Yes. Do I think he's going to be amazing? No, but I think if Bo Nix could be good, and if Courtland Sutton is the receiver of choice there, again, he's in that league winner category. And when we get down to the nitty-gritty of this, guys, you'll be able to see there are definite guys in here in this league winner category that I'm going to differentiate against, because there's a lot of players here and not a lot of slots for this. So I'm probably going to have to tier this once more with guys who've got solid upside and guys who have potentially riskier upside. Courtland Sutton, I think, has solid upside, but I think his volatility is relatively low. I think he's going to return to the mean. He's probably a wide receiver 3. You know, I'm going to change my mind. He's going to be a flex value play for me. I can't really put him in the same category as T-Mac, and you know what? I probably could put him in the same category as Darnell Mooney. That's incredible. It's a tough one. I'm not really sure where to put him here, so we'll have to come back to him another time. But Marvin Mims, I don't think he's never really broken out. Devon Vele has apparently been the guy in camp, but for the time being, it's an offense that probably will run through Courtland Sutton and the running backs. And I'm going to put Mims as being a bit of a sleeper here, because he does have the physical talent that you kind of want out of him. Am I thinking of Devon Vele? No, I'm not at all. I'm going to put him in my ignored category, unfortunately, because at tight end, he's gone and got his joker. And I really do think that Evan Engram, despite him not being able to show it year on year, he showed last year what he really could be when he is allowed to go and be the guy. 9 games, he was PPR 33. You kind of project against that. He was looking to go towards maybe 180 points if he'd been given a full season there as well. Yes, he wasn't brilliant. He wasn't brilliant under what's his name? Under Trevor Lawrence necessarily, but he was fantastic. And the last couple of years as well, 5th and a 2nd position in tight ends. He has got wide receiver 1 upside, I think. And Evan Engram is going to be on the upper tier. He's not at Kelsey, but I do think he's a potential league winner for you and a difference maker at the position, especially at his value. Yes, I think he's not going to be asked to do necessarily the physical stuff. He's not the biggest in the world, 6'3", 240, compared to some of these guys who are 265 plus that we've talked about before. But Evan Engram is a fantastic pass catcher, and I think you could do well with having him in here. Yes, he was ridiculed because he was in the New York Giants for so long, but I think in Jacksonville he showed out really well. This year, I think under Sean Payton, he sees him as a guy who can really do some good things in the backfield, in motion, across the field. I think Evan Engram is going to be a target monster next year, and I probably see him as being probably their red zone target of choice. The Raiders are an interesting proposition to me. Gino, I don't think moves the needle that much, and I don't think the talent around him is that great. Ashton Genty is, of course, going to be an RB1 workhorse. I put him in the same category as King Henry here, so I'm going to start doing that there. He's he's going to be good. I think he might get off to a tough start because they don't really have the physical blockers up front. He's going to need to wear people down, and over the second half of the season, I think he could find his legs. We'll have to see how that goes. But Gino, for me, is, with the talent around him, apart from Brock Bowers, he's nothing more than a late round value. He is solid, but that is all I can say about him. It's uninspired, but I think they are going to be a solid team, especially on defense. It'd be really interesting to see how they look here. So, yeah, your main guy, your fancy 101 in Dynasty, Ashton Genty, is there as a very much an RB1 workhorse. Set and forget. You're very happy. Can't say the same for the wide receiver room. Jacoby Myers is a forgotten guy. I think he's very good, but I don't think he's amazing. Trey Tucker is a second or third year guy. I don't really see that. Dante Thornton is overtaken on Jack Betch. I think your sleeper here is very much Dante Thornton. He's running with the ones at the moment. I think mainly because his size. He's an absolute massive guy. Could be a really good complement to Brock Bowers elsewhere. Elsewhere, I'm not really, for redraft, I'm not really seeing it work out. I'm probably going to give flex value to Jacoby Myers because he is probably going to be the first read. Sorry, I can't even spell Jacoby Myers here. I do think that Jack Betch has late season value, but for purposes of redraft, I'm ignoring him. He's going to be waiver wire fodder for the most of the year. I think he is more of a dynasty target than anything else. Trey Tucker, I'm pretty much ignoring as well. There's too many just kind of random names to feed, and I don't really like any of them. At tight end, though, it's obvious. I think we've got to put Brock Bowers here. Even if he returns to some semblance of normality, he will be absolutely amazing. Let's take a look at him last year. Brock Bowers here. So, 153 targets, 112 receptions, 1,200 yards, 5 TDs. The low TDs was incredible. Based on what he was actually getting, 262 points, by far away a wide receiver one performance here. Let's take another look. If we take a look at Puka Nacua and compare him, I don't know whether he does compare at all. Nacua had 206 PPR points and was 26. Who was better last year? Let's look at Mike Evans. I'm just trying to get a rough score here to see if he's actually 240 points. It was 14th for Mike Evans, and if you say that Brock Bowers got 262, he is in that wide receiver one conversation. Brock Bowers could be a guy. I think he can give you real upside. Yes, there is going to be a regression, I think, but if he can get a few more touchdowns with a bit better, and it is a bit better quarterback play, Brock Bowers could still be absolutely amazing. And a pet team of mine, the Los Angeles Chargers, I really like them because I really like Justin Herbert and I love the way he plays. He's not allowed to play the way he plays. I've got to believe in the process. And for me, I think he is a locked-in QB1. I don't think people see him like that. And I think people see him on the level of Mahomes and like that. So against my better judgment, I'm going to put him in the category here because Harbaugh could just choose to run the ball 1,000 million times, and he can do that because he's got Najee Harris, Marion Hampton, Haskins, and Vidal, who was highly touted going into last year as well. Out of those guys, I think Amarian Hampton is a guy that you want to be targeting here. Do I think he's going to be the running back one to start with? No, but I think he's going to be very good. Najee Harris is on a 1-year deal for a bit of a prove-it deal. I think he is a good handcuff in that kind of ballpark. I think it will be the first couple of weeks before we decide who it's going to be. Unfortunately, I don't think anyone else I'm really paying attention to. But the wide receiver room is a different matter. Ladd McConkey. I've got to put him in here. I believe in it. I think Lad McConkey is in the same conversation as Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson. I think he's there. He's at the lower end of that tier, but I think he's there. He is so undersized, but he is so available and so good in the yak yardage. You know, I'm going to put him in there because if you questioned me and said, would you mind going into him as your wide receiver one? Hell yes. Hell yes. He is really high for me. And I think he's great value because you can get him later on. PPR points, we're talking here. He's just absolutely amazing. And I think his touchdown percentage isn't going to be too bad either. It's interesting to see after that because Quentin Johnson is getting the hype that he's the guy, but Trey Harris has been done there. I think both of them are kind of sleepers. Quentin Johnson, I just can't trust. So I've got to put him down as sleeper because I mean, the man has bricks for hands. You've all seen the play in the past. Mike Williams, unfortunately, I don't think he can return the form he has. Yes, he had some mind meld. I think he'll have his game or two. Trey Harris, I think, could be in that market, but the game runs through Lad McConkey because there is also no one to write home about in the tight end room. Am I right in saying they picked up Tyler Conklin? They did. Again, I'm not really interested. I'm not interested in Will Dissly. He's a blocking tight end. It's a running form. I'm putting Will Dissly and Tyler Conklin in my ignored category, unfortunately, and that's a fair play. You know, for the best quote unquote the Tiffany franchises of the game in NFL world. The AFC West disappointed in some ways and a surprise in others. Let's look at the position group by position group. I think your best quarterback proposition in the AFC West is Bo Nix, followed closely by Justin Herbert and Mahomes. Geno Smith is a late value. You know, we know what he is, what he can do. He's not going to move the needle. The running back room was interesting. Ashton Genty is by far and away your locked-in guy. If you can pick him up early in the second, late in the first, you'll be very happy with that. He'll be a good RB1. He will get you good numbers, and he will be good in the passing game as well. RJ Harvey could be your volatile guy. Yes, he is older. Yes, he is a gadget guy, but he could be it. And Amarian Hampton, I think, will win out in the Chargers backfield. Isaiah Pacheco has some upside because of name value alone. J.K. Dobbins, I think, will be good in stretches. Najee Harris, I think he's too slow these days and he's not efficient enough to make a real difference to your running back room. But if Amarian Hampton goes down, volume play is all there. Audric Estime and Kareem Hunt are talked about, but I'm ignoring them for the purposes of redraft. And there is by far away one leader in the wide receiver room for me because this is not a passing division. Weirdly, with Mahomes and Herbert, Lad McConkey is your guy. He is volume. He is everything. He's the guy you want. And if you take him from me, I will find you. Outside that, there's no other locked-in wide receiver ones. Yes, Rashee Rice has potential league winner value, but there's so many questions around them. It just appears that the Chiefs have guys with questionable histories, questionable futures, and questionable decision-making as well. Cortland Sutton and Jacoby Myers, I think, have good value, but I think only at the top end. They'll get to wide receiver 2 range, so that I think the top end ceiling is maybe 22 to 20, 19 to 22 maybe is the top end. Not guys that you're going to want to be drafting as your league winners, as your wide receiver ones, unless you're going for a 0 wide receiver strategy, which don't do that. There's lots of sleepers though, and because these guys have very full rooms in the Chiefs, Worthy and Brown, either of them could break out as being the guy to stretch the field and make it easier for Rashee Rice and the other guys. Marvin Mims, Dante Thornton, interesting players, physical. Quentin Johnson has the traits and apparently is running with them. But Trey Harris is a highly touted rookie. And the guys you're ignoring, Juju is gone. Jalen Royals, I think, is a prospect for the future. Vele, I don't think he is the right kind of guy. There is another guy, Pat Bryant, actually, I'm going to put as a sleeper. I can't remember how to spell his name, but he's a big body guy. He looks a bit like Michael Thomas to be that slant guy. Maybe he is the next Sean Payton slant guy. But Jack Betch, unfortunately, despite the preseason and pre-draft process, Trey Tucker, Mike Williams, I can't really see them being the guys. there is some good tight end prospects, and this is probably the strongest tight end room that we've had in the divisions. Kelsey, Bowers, 100% wide receiver one upside, both for very different reasons. Evan Engram, I think, could be a league winner in the position. He's going to be underdrafted. You need to overdraft him. But the Chargers, they're blocking. Tyler Conklin, Will Dissly, you're not doing anything to move the needle for me. Yeah, it's been a very interesting division. I thought I would have much better pass catchers, much better QBs here, but I've kind of middled out on those guys and instead have a couple of generational talents I hope will do their thing in interesting positions. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. If you've liked this kind of stuff, please like, favorite, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I will be back next week or next time. Maybe not next week. I don't know when it's going to be. With the NFC West, my division, got the Rams in there. I'm not hyping up just the Rams. I'm trying to take an analytical approach. So let's see how that pans out. But thank you so much for listening. If you like this pod, all social at Rugby with Pads, you can support the pod, rugbywithpads.com. Get yourself a membership for as little as £1 a month, and you get yourself some cheaper merch. Even if you just want to get it for 1 month and get the merch, do that, please. Anyway, everything all supports, but you can support just by liking and talking to someone else who might like just the pod as well. But thank you so much for listening. If you got this far, I appreciate you so much, and I will see you very soon, Virtual Gridiron.